Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Joe Deninzon has been hailed by critics as the Jimi Hendrix of the violin because of his innovative style on seven-string electric violin. Joe has worked with The Who, 50 Cent, Sheryl Crow, Bruce Springsteen, Phoebe Snow, Everclear, Ritchie Blackmore, Smokey Robinson, Aretha Franklin, Les Paul, and many, many more great artists. Joe is the lead singer and electric violinist for the progressive rock band Stratospheerius, which has released 5 critically acclaimed CDs. Joe and Stratospheerius are releasing their new live box set, Behind the Curtain, live at ProgStock. It'll be on May 19th will be the officially release on Melodic Revolution Records. The collection on 2 CDs and DVDs, Blu-ray shows this treasured electric violinist, singer-songwriter's history of favorites in the past decade and a half in the rock scene. Live at ProgStock features eclectic covers, King Crimson's Frame by Frame, a Queen-esque approach to Muse's Hysteria, and an unrehearsed cover of Chick Corea, Spain, with blind piano and flute virtuoso Rachel Flowers and Alex Skolnick. One Foot in the Next World is the brand new music video, and you can watch it on YouTube. Please welcome the Jimi Hendrix of the electric violin. I can't talk today. Sorry about that. Lead vocalist, mandolinist, guitarist, and composer for progressive rock band Stratospheerius, Joe Deninzon, to Interviewing the Legends. Hey, Joe. I haven't had enough coffee yet, man.
I only had 1 cup so far. I got.
Oh, you too, huh? Our last interview together was 5 years ago. Guilty of Innocence was released. I can't believe it's been 5 years already, man. It seems like yesterday.
Man, time flies.
It does, doesn't it?
Time's fun when you're having flies.
Yeah, yeah. What's going on this weekend? You have a residency in San Antonio this weekend. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, I'm working for my boss, Mark Wood. Mark Wood is the guy who builds these 7-string flying V. I got it right here.
That's awesome. Very cool, man.
A 7-string flying V fretted electric violin. And Mark does these things called Electrify Your Symphony, where he goes all over the country to different high schools.
Right.
And like it's a combined concert of like 4 or 5 different high schools, like 600 kids rocking out on violin, viola, and cello. So I'm representing the brand, and I'm going down there to do a residency and do a big concert on Saturday night.
Very cool. You do a lot with kids and teaching and that sort of thing. I commend you for doing that. You know, when I was in school growing up in like elementary school, that was kind of a standard thing. You had to learn an instrument, and you got to pick between 4 or 5 different instruments, and they would bring it right into the classroom. And a lot has changed, and I kind of miss that. You also got to pick a language. I remember learning French when I was in elementary school,
Yeah. Well, my kids are fortunate that we have a good school system in our town, and they still get to choose instruments and choose a language to study.
Oh, good.
We have a good music program for a public school. But I know it's not that way everywhere for sure. A lot of programs have been cut.
They've been cut. Yeah, a lot of the art has been cut. That was my favorite subject growing up.
It was it saved me from going insane,
Exactly.
Madness of the world.
It's just getting more madder and madder by the minute, too. You got a couple of really cool videos out now on YouTube from the new box set. One of them was Chick Corea, Spain, and you got Rachel Flowers and Alex Skolnick on it. And Rachel's amazing, man. She's a multi-instrumentalist. She's blind, And she's sitting at the piano, and then she picks up the flute and plays the piano the on the piano. It's she's an incredible performer. She really is.
Well, I like to say there's talent and there's abducted by aliens.
Exactly.
The latter and I've met a lot of talented people in my life, but there's next level. If you ever check out, I highly recommend. She's nowhere near as well known as she should be. She's
Right.
really a genius. She
I
plays
agree.
instruments, and if you listen to her records, you got to realize she plays every instrument on there, except drums. She programs the drums and she engineers it and mixes it herself. And she's blind since 3 months old,
Wow.
which is insane how she's able to do that. And we became good friends. She guested on a studio single we released a few years ago, and we've sat in on each other's performances. And she's a mainstay at ProgStock. So that night she was playing a solo set right before our set, and we invited her to sit in. And Alex was playing after us. So that performance of Spain was the first time they had ever met, let alone played together. It was totally spontaneous and unrehearsed. And it just
Incredible, man. Yeah. She's awesome. She was born 15 weeks prematurely, is what I understand, and that resulted in her becoming blind. I was 12 weeks premature.
really,
And sometimes I think I don't have all my parts, and my brain is only not fully formed. But yeah, so it's crazy, man. I'm telling you.
born
Um,
11 pounds when I was born. I was born like 2 weeks late, and they didn't have C-sections back in Russia in the
I
early 70s.
oh wow, they didn't have C sections, really?
Early 70s? No.
Wow.
Mother really suffered. I give her a big bouquet of flowers on Mother's
I was early, and I was also placenta previous, which is kind of dangerous. It could hurt the mother, and also it could hurt the birth as well. So yeah, she had a hard time with me as well. So yeah, difficult times back then.
Kids are amazing what they go through.
Exactly. I just want to mention there is a documentary film also about Rachel Flowers. Hearing is believing, and I don't know where it's released, but that would be a great thing to watch
I think it's Prime Video. That's where I saw it on Amazon.
on Amazon. Yeah, I want to make sure I see that for sure. Um, you have a celebration for the new release. It's going to be in New York at the Iridium. Talk about that. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah, that's a very special night. We've never played the Iridium before.
Hmm.
It's a real jewel in New York, one of the best venues, especially for the kind of music we play. They reached out to us, invited us to do this performance, and we really wanted to have a big celebration because it's 3 years in the making. This project that we're putting out, it's going to be on May 31st, Wednesday, May 31st. Randy McStein, our good friend, is opening for us. He's the guitarist with Porcupine Tree, great songwriter. And sitting in with us is keyboardist Bill Hubauer, best known for his work with Neil Morse Band. So we're going to be playing as a five-piece for the first time in a very long time, and Randy's going to open the night. So it's uh, Wednesday, May 31st at the Iridium. And if you're in New York, if you're in the area, highly recommend checking out that show. And you could go to theiridium.com, type in code Strato50, and you get 50% off tickets.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, Ann Layton, who I've known for quite a long time now, she was promoting that show and also selling tickets online on Facebook yesterday. So, yeah, she got the word out for sure.
And it's actually our only show in the area for a while because some of us are doing some major projects over the summer that
Oh,
we
really?
disclose at this time.
Yeah.
Will be revealed. So it's going to be a special night, kind of the closing and opening of a new chapter.
Yeah.
So we're going to make it a splash.
Awesome.
Uh,
Well, I gave Behind the Curtain live at ProgStock 5 stars.
Thank you.
It's incredible. I watch the videos because the videos are always really exciting, and I'm always listening to just the audio. And the video was incredible. It was really awesome, man. You got a great voice, you know that?
Thank you. I've been singing all my life. I love singing.
Yeah.
Um,
How do you sing and play the violin? That's almost as hard as playing the drums and singing, isn't it? It seems like it.
just practice, a lot of practice. I kind of, I played guitar and bass all through high school, so I could sing and
Right.
play. And I think there was a summer during college where I formed a short-lived power trio in Cleveland where I was growing up, and it was just violin, bass, and drums. And I'm like, why don't I try to sing and play the violin? I have one song on guitar. I'm going to try to arrange it for violin. It took me 2 weeks to figure it out. I'm like, wow, this is weird, but I can. I think I could do this. Let me do another one and another one. I just got faster at it. And the cool thing about the Mark Wood violin, it has a harness system, so you don't have to hold it by your chin. Your mouth is free to move, which is very comfortable if you're a singer. You know, so.
You got such a cool voice. I mean, you got a good rock voice, but you also have a good pop voice as well. Like on the radio, you can you could be on top 40, that kind of thing. And the other guy that reminds me of you is Neil Morris. I had Neil on the show. He's a very cool guy. You know,
He's one of my favorite musicians, one of my favorite artists. I'm a huge fan of his.
and he's very eclectic. And like you can do that. You can play anything if you want. And he's the same way. He goes from the super prog to kind of poppy stuff to kind of Christian music. He does a lot of stuff like that.
I just wish I was as prolific as him. It takes me forever to finish a record. He cranks one out every year.
Does it really take you a while? Are you very particular about how it comes out?
It's also, I think, well, I have two kids and I'm a
Hmm.
freelance musician and I'm involved in a lot of different projects as a sideman. So it's just, carving the time to move a project forward is always a challenge with all the other demands on my time. That's a big part of it. Um,
You super artists are very hard on yourselves.
well, just trying to pay the bills. I always follow through. I'll get it done. It could take me 5 years. As you can
Right.
see, our last interview was 5 years ago, but I do get it done.
You get it done. Yes, you
Right.
did. I'm going to mention some songs from the new release. Behind the Curtain, of course. That's a very cool video, by the way. That if MTV still existed like it did back in the '80s, that would have been on an MTV. That's how good that track is, and it would have been perfect for MTV.
Thank you. The guy that edited that video, the studio version, was an MTV producer for 12 years,
Really.
11. Good friend of mine. Our daughters go to Hebrew school together. That's how we met.
Hmm.
And he started working with me. He did a couple videos for us, and he coached me during the editing of the live thing. And he was a mainstay at MTV for 12 years. He produced a lot of the VMAs, did rockumentaries for Madonna and Michael Jackson and a lot of big artists. So
Hmm.
he kind of schooled me a little bit with this stuff.
Yeah, excellent job, man. I love that song too. Um, on release, Alex is a great guitar player. It's a great jam, and he does a great lead as well, especially on release. Really
The
like
release
that track.
was actually, I'm sorry to interrupt. The
Hmm.
release was not Alex. That's our regular guitarist, Michelangelo
Oh,
Quirinale.
okay, all right.
Um,
Was Alex on the video though, or was
no,
it?
Alex was a guest on
It was just
20.
a guess, right?
Sat in on two songs with us that night, Heavy Shtetl and Spain.
Okay. Repeat his name again. The guitarist for release.
The regular guitarist in the band is Michelangelo Quirinale.
Michelangelo. Okay. Incredible, man. He's got some great licks. Um,
I'm lucky to have had a succession of great guitarists in my band. Very lucky.
yeah, and guitar and violin, man, they go together. You guys can always jam out. I mean, Kansas proved that.
I love hanging out with guitar players. I'm of the same mind because I grew up playing guitar and I still do. I love talking gear and I love I was influenced by a lot of great guitar players. So there's a connection, to the instrument and the mentality of playing it.
I was just going to say that you probably have the mentality of a guitar player when you're playing the violin, right?
I'm a violinist trapped, a guitarist trapped in a violinist's body. So like,
I like that. That's a good quote. Imposter was a cool track. And in this song, we all know why they say you're the Hendrix of the violin. I mean, you really shine. Um, Kind of sounded a little bit like Kansas in a way. You know, it was an incredible jam. Love Imposter. Great tune.
um, thank you. That's actually gonna. We released it as a single, but that's gonna be on our upcoming studio album as well, which hopefully will be out next year.
Oh, good. All right. So I did get something out of you.
So we've been dropping singles over, but we've been working on this next record for a long, long time, and it's almost.
Yeah. Talk about climbing.
That was co-written. That came out on our 2012 album, "The Next World." It was co-written by one of my former guitarists, Mac Price,
Okay.
Texas, and it's kind of a country rock jam.
Mm-hmm.
It's a country rock ballad, and really fun to play. And I love to go out into the crowd and serenade them during the big violin solo. So yeah, that's on the first part. This live
Mm-hmm.
uh, is taken from two performances at the ProgStock Festival. First half is from 2019. Second half is from 2021. So climbing is from the first half.
Whoever filmed it and did, I guess, the engineering and production work did a fantastic job on the video. He did a really good job.
Yeah, shout out to Matt Urban and
Hmm.
Eric Nielsen and Joel Simches and Matt Vanacoro, who mixed it, and Dave Kersner, who mastered it. There's a long list of people that were involved.
Yeah, I can see that.
Um,
Great job, man. Um, Game of Chicken had a kind of a funky intro, which I liked. You know, another great tune. The Prism. You know what I heard in this? You're Jewish. Well, I guess you can say you're a Russian Jew,
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
My uncle was a Russian Jew. I had my uncle, and my father's family came from Syria, so they called them SYs or Syrian Jews. They had to get the hell out of there. But I kind of heard a Arabic twist in the Prism. Am I wrong on that, or maybe Arabic Israeli type? You know,
had a Middle Eastern sounding scale in there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was fun incorporating that. I think that song it's very Kashmir esque.
Exactly.
That was weird. That song, I was driving back from the studio, and that whole song just randomly popped in my brain, and it was all there. A complete song just planted in my brain out of nowhere. I came home, wrote it down, and it was just one.
Really,
Some songs are like that. It's pretty wild.
that's
Um,
incredible.
have to think about it.
The other one that sounds a little bit Arabic is I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it. Heavy Shtetl. Heavy Shtetl.
Yeah, that was co-written with Alex Skolnick in
Okay.
the thousands when he was in the band, and it was his phrase because he's a heavy metal guitarist, and
Right.
both Jewish, so it was kind of making fun of our Jewish and metal roots, so to
That's
speak.
funny.
It
I
was
like
totally
that.
like, yeah, and Alex hadn't played the song in 20 years, and he was sitting in with us, and I kind of threw him in the fire because that song needed to be rehearsed, and he was like, but it was that's also the one that turns into an extended jam. So that track goes on for over 17 minutes.
Wow.
Long bathroom break for
Yeah,
a radio show. Play the song, go relax.
exactly. I love your voice, but it's nice. I like it when you do an instrumental as well because let's face it, prog and what you do, it's really meant for these long jams. You know.
But we have some on the new studio album. We have a few instrumental tracks, a lot
Oh,
of vocal
good.
tracks. We're actually working on like an instrumental suite right now. That's the last song we're tracking, and I'm gonna incorporate more instrumental stuff because it's good to rest your voice and just shred.
Exactly. Yeah, and you guys are so good at it too.
Thanks. Yeah.
Storm Surge. Now, originally that was Michael Sadler, right?
Yeah, we released that during COVID, during the height of it. A lot of special guests. Michael Sadler did lead vocals.
Hmm.
Fernando Purple played guitar. Rachel Flowers played flute and piano. Rudy Celli played cello. Um, Even my wife Yulia contributed to it, a violinist from New York Philharmonic. That was a massive project, and we performed it live with Rachel at ProgStock. I sang the lead, and that's a song about the inner turmoil, the uncertainty we were all experiencing in 2020 and 2021, both with COVID, with you know the BLM movement, and all the political stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's more about anxiety, and it's kind of a general statement. But at the end of the song, the sun comes out. If you listen to it, you know, it's got kind of a hopeful ending. So
A lot of great music and great lyrics actually came out of the pandemic. It's kind of like, yeah, like the 60s with the Vietnam War, all the crazy lyrics and, songs that came out of that era as well. So everything was bad. We all had a tough time, but produced some great lyrics and good music, you know?
through history, some of the best music was produced during tough times.
Yeah,
During happy
exactly.
times, the music sometimes gets crappier. Go figure.
Well, that's where we got the blues, right? It all started with the blues. um, I love the album. I really do. I love the title of co- let's see, cognitive dissonance. I mean, where'd you come up with that?
Oh, I'll tell you. That's a story. Well, we have a neighbor who is Palestinian.
Uh-huh.
In
And you
high
get
school,
along with them?
he was my mechanic, saved my butt many, many, many times.
Really?
Great, great guys. Uh, our sons were friends for a while,
Hmm.
and my son. God, this was years ago. He was maybe 9 or 10. He was playing with the neighbor's son, and the neighbor's son goes, "You're Jewish. You're going to hell." And he
Oh my gosh.
horrible things. And you know, I talked to our rabbi, and he said maybe he'll see the cognitive dissonance between what he's been brainwashed
Right.
versus knowing somebody personally who's a cool kid, and you know, um, the song is sort of about how racism is inherited and taught generation to generation, and creates a lot of problems in the world because kids aren't born hating each other. It's a general statement on society,
I
and
agree.
inspired by that little incident. You know,
Yeah. Well,
cognitive.
maybe
Sorry.
go
So
ahead.
the idea of cognitive dissonance is about how if we don't know the people, you could paint a whole group of people a certain way, and when you get to
Hmm.
know one on one, it might create cognitive dissonance with what was um, taught to you about their group versus knowing someone personally and having that human connection and dispelling all the BS.
Oh, that's great, man. Yeah. You should take that to do a show in Israel. Ha- have you done a show there before?
No, but we have tons of friends there, and
Yeah.
old bass player Ron Barone lives there.
Right.
So one of these days, we'll make our way over there for sure.
Yeah. Play that song and invite some Palestinians in the audience.
I mean, like Palestinian musicians jam and do gigs with Israeli musicians all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
living together.
Well, like you said, it's the politics, and the people are cool. Yeah.
Well,
Right.
people just want to live their lives with dignity and go to work, and
Yeah.
musicians don't get into any of that crap. We just want to play.
Look at all the great shows that happen in Russia. You
Sure.
know, I remember seeing Metallica in Russia with like hundreds of thousands of people bouncing up and down, including the soldiers. You know.
Absolutely. I mean, my wife grew up in the Soviet Union, and she had bootlegs of Scorpions, Bon Jovi. This was in the 80s and 90s. Deep Purple. Having those bootlegs was an act of defiance.
Mm-hmm.
Was forbidden. You couldn't buy it at a store.
Right.
Talking just like mainstream hard rock music. So it was really uh, a big deal when they did that whole Moscow Music Peace Festival in '89. With all those bands, and yeah, it was different times, and people don't realize how lucky they are to just be able to listen to whatever they want. And
Exactly.
I don't know how it is now. There's a lot more censorship going on since the war started.
Yeah.
So
I always say music will save us all. That's the worldwide way to communicate with each other is music. You know,
people
I
are
know about the Russians. My grandmother got thrown out of Cuba in 1959 when Fidel came over, and my mom was born and raised in Cuba. So yeah, they had it rough too. They still have it rough. There's no, you know, it has not grown like Russia. At least Russia's got it's a modern time, but Cuba's still back in the 50s.
Cuba's
They haven't
still
evolved.
Cuba's still a communist country, and there's still a lot of embargoes on it. And
Yeah, which really sucks.
so you're part Cuban and part Syrian, and you have Russian roots and Jewish
Yep.
roots.
Well, my uncle Aaron, his last name was Laban. I'm sure it was like Labansky or something like that. I'm sure they've changed it. So yeah, that was my aunt's husband. So yeah, and and plus I got some Italian in me also, because I think our family migrated from Italy to Syria. That's what happened, and then the Cuban side came from Spain. They came from Spain to Cuba because my grandparents were from Spain on my mom's side.
So you're all over the Mediterranean. Your roots are
Yes.
that's amazing.
Exactly. I'm sure you got a little bit of everything too. Are you 100% Russian or you not?
I'm not Russian. I mean, like Ashkenazic Jew.
Right.
The ancestry thing, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting as yours, but I haven't done it
How old are your kids?
yet. We have a 14-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter.
Oh wow.
8th grade and 4th grade finishing.
Yeah, I got 5 grandkids.
Really?
Yeah,
You don't look like you would have grandkids.
I do. I'm up there. I'm 64.
Well,
Yeah. Not a lot of headaches. I chill a lot.
weed is good.
um, One of my favorite songs you do is so cool is One Foot in the Next World. And I like and One Foot Stuck in This Life. Yeah, I mean that's a great tune. Talk about that one a little bit.
Yeah, I guess a lot of my lyrics are cryptically political.
Right.
I don't like to take a side necessarily, although you could kind of tell what I'm. That's about like corrupt politicians. I think it was written during the Bush era. It's an old song, but it was kind of it became a mainstay in our set list, and we like to close the night with it. And kind of about religious hypocrisy and the idea of one hand washing my back and one hand twisting the knife. Excuse me. That's a lyric that I'm proud of. So,
Yeah.
but it's just a fun tune to play, and I kind of go crazy at the end of it. In the video.
Yeah. Very cool song.
I like I like power pop, and I like prog pop, meaning I like hooks. I like songs that you could sing along to, good melodies, and intricate instrumental stuff. But to me, like the melody and the hook is so important.
Yeah. Prague is very strong again. I've interviewed a lot of Prague artists from all over the world, man, and even Russia, and it's very strong. There's a lot of new music out, a lot of great music out, and that's what's that's missing in today's commercial radio. You don't have those great players like yourself, like your band, the great guitar players anymore, the band. There's not a lot of bands anymore,
Right. I mean, a lot of the rock gods, the icons in their 70s and 80s and 60s are
Yeah,
not going to be with us uh, in the next few decades. We're going
I
to lose
know.
icons. I was, having played with some of these artists, The Who, Springsteen,
Hmm.
Ritchie Blackmore. I'm like, where's the young generation that's on that level
Right,
of a cultural influence? And maybe that's because rock is not on that level of culture and influence that it was in the 60s and 70s when those guys broke out. So we got to bring it back. And I love a lot of the stuff I hear on the radio. I like Taylor Swift. I like Harry Styles. I like Lizzo. There's some good songs being produced. I don't paint in broad strokes, but you got to make some room for rock and roll.
right.
I wouldn't be able to put out music like Harry Styles or make a hip hop album because it's not that music is not my truth. I respect it, but I
Right.
would feel imposter, no pun intended, trying to play
Yeah,
it. you know. So yeah, I think you gotta play what the music that's your truth and just stick with it, and hopefully people will recognize that you're genuine and you love what you do, and they'll gravitate towards it. You know.
exactly.
I having been around the scene for a bunch of years now, there's a lot of great young bands making really cool music. Um, Actually, Randy McStein is the guy who's opening our show on the 31st. Is one of those guys. I think he's on the cutting edge, and he's writing and recording some of the best stuff out there.
Oh, good.
District 97 is a band we've played with, and they're one of my favorites. They're a young band out of Chicago. Not well known. Everybody's just funding their own albums and
Yep.
piling into a van and playing clubs. But there's great music being made. You just have to seek it out. You know.
Well, like Neil Morris, he should be bigger than what he is, you
Been around
know?
since 1995 is the first Spock Spirit album came out. He's been around for almost 30
Yeah,
years.
I know.
Tons of albums, great albums. Spock Spirit. I
Yep.
mean, they're sort of a classic rock band now, but
Yeah,
they're
I know.
they're, they're probably for me like in the on the level of Zeppelin and the Beatles. They're in my among my top 10 or top 5 favorite bands.
Yeah.
They can't afford to tour. Like they don't tour because they don't have that audience, that level of following.
It's a
Um,
shame. It really is.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
had Big Train on recently. Another great band.
I got to work with Nick DiVirgilio on
He,
Cruise to the Beach
he's
last year.
cool, isn't he?
He's so great, man. He's such a great drummer, great singer.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I was playing with an all-star band with him and Billy Sherwood, bass player from
Yep.
Yes,
I know Billy.
and the McBroom sisters from Pink Floyd and the Stones, who sang
Yep.
backup. Um, and yeah, he's and when you're playing with a guy who's on all like, so many of your favorite albums, it's
Hmm.
kind of a pinch me moment, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. Um, your parents, I mean, you're so lucky because your parents wanted you to play violin, right? When you were little?
My parents are very straight arrow classical musicians because they
Yeah.
world. They didn't really know anything else growing up. My dad just retired after 44 years with the Cleveland Orchestra as a
Wow.
my mother's a concert pianist who they basically run a music school out of their house. Me
Hmm.
growing up, piano lessons in one room, violin lessons in the other, and people coming in and out nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
So they taught me violin and piano. I suck at piano, but I think my dad always expected me to follow in his footsteps and join an orchestra, but I was my heart wasn't into it. I was into all this creative stuff, and once you scratch that itch, you never go back. you know,
Yeah.
Orchestra is you're playing great music if you're lucky with good conductors if you're lucky, but you have to do what you're told. There's zero. It's not a creative experience at all.
Right. Yeah, you're like a robot, kind of, when you're in a symphony. Or
I mean, sitting in the middle of a string section during a Mahler symphony is a out of body experience if it's
hmm
a good conductor. It's amazing if you you know if you ever have a chance to experience that. It's incredible. But there is more to life. There's so many. You get a different kind of high just playing with a great band that's playing original music or playing with a being in the moment with a great improvising jazz group or something.
yeah.
another dopamine rush that's just different part of your brain, you know.
When did you first pick up an electric violin? I mean, that transition. What your parents think about that? When I'm going electric.
I had like a parallel life when I was growing up. I was going to my classical violin lessons every week, and I was playing in youth orchestras. But I also got really into like hard rock, like
Hmm.
Black Sabbath and Metallica and all that stuff. And I taught myself bass and guitar, and I was singing, and writing songs, playing in bands. And around 16 years old, I got heard by Michael Stanley, a local Cleveland rocker, kind of like Bob Seger of
Sure.
Cleveland, hold attendance records.
Hmm.
He passed away 2 years ago, and he invited me to sit in with his band on violin. I'd never played anything outside of classical music on violin, but I knew the language because I learned it on other instruments. So it just kind of fit, you know. It worked, and I at the time I didn't know any other improvising violinists in Cleveland in the early '90s. I didn't know anybody. There weren't a lot of role models in that world.
Hmm.
Um, there were a lot of swing jazz players. There had been like Stefan Grappelli, um, you know, Daryl Anger, Matt Glasser, but I wasn't really aware. And then I had a really good jazz teacher who introduced me to Jean-Luc Ponty
Hmm.
and Jerry Goodman. And when I went to college, I heard Celestial Terrestrial Commuters, Mahavishnu Orchestra, and I heard Jerry Goodman do that shredding solo that had some hip effects on it. And I was like, oh my God, am I not doing this? You know, so this is it. That was like that moment of epiphany for me. Like, I want to play like that. I got to get an electric violin. So the first one I bought was a six string made by a guy named Eric Jensen.
Hmm.
He's no longer with us. And I played that for 10 years. And then I met Mark Wood, who builds these crazy flying V's. And I'm like, come on, that's my jam. I got to have one of those. So that was it. Like in my professional life, half the gigs I do are on electric and half are on traditional acoustic. So I have different instruments for different situations, you know.
Now,
And it's
do you make an order to Mark? Like, I want it this way. I want this violin structured this way. I mean, is that what happens, or?
Yeah, I mean, they measure you for the instrument, and you can choose to have, you know, how many strings you want on it, if you want frets or no frets,
Hmm.
color you want it, things like that.
It's good to know somebody like that, man.
There's a lot of luthiers now making different kinds of electric violins, and it's a personal choice based on what kind of gigs you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
And of course, I love putting it through distortion and delay and all the guitar effects. That's my thing. I love exploring different sounds. You know,
Right.
you know, there's purists that'll say, "Well, that's not a real violin," or "It doesn't sound like an acoustic," or this or that. And I'm like, that's okay. It's kind of its own beast, and
That's
accept
right.
its own terms. And it's an art to playing the electric with different set of skills that you're not going to use for an acoustic. So um, it's its own beautiful thing, and I love it. You know, I
Sure.
love playing acoustic violin too. It's just
It's very Star Trek, you know?
uh,
It's something I think Spock would play. Can you add like wah wah, like a wah wah type sound to?
listen to my records. I use it all the time, and on the live
Yeah,
a lot. Yeah,
it is
totally.
the wah wah, huh?
Which I should have hooked it up and demonstrated some stuff, but maybe next time. You know,
Okay, yeah, we like to hear that. What would Joshua Heifetz think about the electric violin?
I don't think he would like it. He was a very and brilliant player, but he's kind of old school in the mentality. I was kind of, and one of my biggest influences, but I was kind of fighting that mentality in college. There was a lot of stodgy old violin teachers that even if you ventured a little bit outside classical, they didn't want to know you. You know,
Yeah,
that mentality is slowly dying out with the younger generation of teachers and players. But it's hundreds of years of thinking like that you have to kind of fight when you're a string player, and especially trying to get a higher education. Um, so yeah, it's this mentality that this is the only way to play, this is the only way to train, and that other music is kind of inferior, so to speak.
hmm, that's interesting. I've had guys like Daryl Way on the show. I've had Jean-Luc on the show. You
Here,
know, great guys, man. Really good guys. I love the electric violin. I think it's awesome. You know.
I would agree.
Yeah.
It's funny because Jean-Luc is really, I call him the father of electric violin. He was a true pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing that in the 60s before anyone else was.
Yeah.
Such amazing albums. And I've met him a bunch of times. I've transcribed his solos for Downbeat magazine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, none of us, it's funny. I meet a lot of young electric violin players who don't know who he is. And I tell them, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for Jean-Luc.
Yep. It's true. That is true. You worked with a lot of people that I've interviewed. Michael Sadler, he's a great guy, by the way. Michael's awesome. We keep in contact on Facebook. And I just had Annie on the show, Annie Haslam from Renaissance. You worked with Renaissance?
I toured with Renaissance 3 times now.
Really?
Concertmaster for the chamber orchestra.
Okay.
Annie is amazing.
She's cool.
2 of their live album DVDs, the 2017 tour and the 50th anniversary tour.
Mm-hmm.
Upcoming legacy tour, which was recorded at the Keswick last October.
Right.
So that's just, I love playing that music. I love Annie, and the musical director is our good friend Rave Tessar, who
Yep.
is our engineer on a bunch of our records and big longtime partner of the band and friend.
What did you do with Kiss?
That was so yeah, that was wild. And I grew up a Kiss fan. I there's a guy named Alex Saltzman. He's a keyboard player and engineer. He's Ace Frehley's go-to tracking engineer. He's done like 5 records with him, and he mixed most of Guilty of Innocence
Mm-hmm.
album. And through Ace, he became the musical director for Peter Criss, and Peter did his farewell concert in the cutting room. I think it was 2017. So I got to write some string arrangements, put together the string quartet, and play the show with Peter.
Wow. That's cool.
And that was surreal because here I am playing Beth with Peter Criss.
I know it's awesome when you get to play with your heroes, the guys you grow up with, I get the same feeling when I interview everybody that I grew up with. It's awesome, you know.
It's incredible. It's just, I'm grateful for every moment, everything I've gotten to do. And
Yeah.
more cool stuff coming up. But yeah, I like to, I have a Patreon page,
Mm-hmm.
Patreon, whatever you call it, and the the lowest tier is $5 a month if you just
Okay.
Patreon, and for that you get gig diaries where I just basically share stories from my life as a musician, and that's always fun because sometimes just people don't know how crazy things get, or different how certain celebrity musicians are in real life, and it's fun to share that. Maybe I'll compile it in a book someday, but
You should.
as I like to do.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm an author. Just keep your notes, man. And if you have photos, make sure you have plenty of pictures because people like pictures.
Absolutely.
We both love this guy, and unfortunately, he passed away not long ago. He will be tremendously missed. Jeff Beck.
Sure.
Um, I don't know if you have in the past, but have you ever done a tribute to Jeff Beck?
Well, I'm working up a solo arrangement of Diamond Dust, which is
Oh my God. That's my favorite song.
it's probably my favorite song, or in the top 5 favorites from Jeff Beck's music.
Yeah.
Uh, I have a solo live looping version of it, and I want to add strings to it. I've added it to my live set. Um,
Oh my gosh. Really? That is
um,
that's the top 5 songs of all time. That's one of them.
yeah, it's so beautiful. It's under the songs I wish I had written category.
Yeah. Yeah. He's going to be missed. I mean, he's already missed, you know?
Yeah, he was just
Yeah.
such a tremendous sound, such a tremendous talent, and his whole musical philosophy. And he didn't just want the fluffy celebrity thing. He was always trying to make art and
Yep.
go deeper with it, and also featured great young players he discovered.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, he had the girl bass player in his band.
oh, yeah,
She was incredible.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you can appreciate that because you do a lot of that too, bringing in young talent and that kind of stuff.
Um,
I think you should do the whole Blow by Blow album.
Not a bad idea. That would be fun. Probably something on violin.
You know how cool that would be as a tribute, and maybe have some guest artists with you.
That's not a bad idea. I'm gonna put that on my to-do list. That's that's got to be. That's a great idea. I had
That's
this.
a perfect album for you and what
I
you
had
do.
I had this other concept. Wanted to do a tribute to Eddie Van Halen,
Hmm.
usually influenced by him. But I know a lot of violinists that do Eruption, including me. So
Yeah, that's been done a million times.
do a montage of different violinists doing Eruption as a tribute with little snippets of each person, and just segue it to the next one. Like put it on YouTube, send it to his son, maybe.
Yeah, that would be neat.
Fun.
But I think you're on the right track with Diamond Dust because that hasn't been done a lot. And Ended as Lovers, that's another great song I love. Stevie Wonder tune, originally done with Sarita Wright, his ex-wife, who I love. Sarita Wright. I'm a big R&B guy too. I love R&B and soul music. But God, if you did Blow by Blow, I mean, imagine how that would sound to the electric violin. Oh my gosh.
Well, here's the deal. I have about two more records I have to make, and then that'll be next in line.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Like my pace, but no, I got to do. I'm gonna do it. It's
Good,
great.
good. That'd be fantastic. What about touring? What's going on with touring?
Well, I'm tied up with a project over the summer that will
Okay.
keep me on the road. Not Stratospheerius, but I cannot
Another
say
project?
other project. Um, you might know about it in a week.
Okay.
So this particular Stratospheerius will not be doing a wide tour in the near future, but we are working on some regional shows in September. And so far, we just booked Kennett Flash in Philly on September 30th.
Hmm.
We're on a string of shows late in September, and then beyond that, we'll see. We're gonna keep working on it. Depends on my schedule and other things I'm involved with, but hopefully, we'll do more touring. Um,
Good.
right now, it's just logistics, money, and schedules and stuff.
Yeah.
But we have the big show at the Iridium on May 31st in New York, so we hope that those of you listening who are in the area will be able to attend.
Are you going to tape that?
We might.
Hmm.
Might be a good.
You're being very secretive today, Joe.
Sorry.
My listeners want to know. All your fans want to know.
I'm following the rules given to me.
I know. I know. Mark Wood he was in the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, right? Was he?
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah. For I when I played with them before they played arenas, we played
Right.
Beacon theaters. Early 2000s. Mark was the violinist and put the string section together. He worked with them for like 10 years,
Hmm.
and then they moved on. Yeah.
Yeah. Every Christmas. They always played on the radio. That's what you need. You need a Hanukkah song or a Christmas song.
Right. One of my favorite Christmas covers and titles was Steve Lukather did an album called Santa Mental, and it
Mm.
showed a hat and a straight jacket.
Oh, jeez. How did that go over?
You know,
That's funny.
so, so TSO,
Well,
sorry, quick story. So
Go ahead.
Skolnick, when he left my band, he was touring with TSO for a long time. And a few years later, Stratospheerius was in Detroit playing in Greektown at a club, and Trans-Siberian Orchestra was in Detroit. So Alex reached out, "Can I come over and sit in with you guys? I'm going nuts here with Trans-Siberian." I'm like, "Sure." And Alex is a great jazz player, great improviser, and with TSO, you gotta everything is exactly planned out. Every note, every move on stage. If you're in the wrong place, you're gonna get fireworks blown up in your face. So you got to be everything is choreographed. And Alex was so burned out on doing everything exactly so rigidly. He's just not that kind of animal, you know. So we
Right.
get on stage and we're playing Dixie Dregg's "The Bash,"
Hmm.
and Jake, our guitarist, start going at it. And Alex always took long solos, and I knew that he was like this was therapy for him. So I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, it's gonna go for a while. So I just walked off the stage, went down the street, had a full dinner, came back. You know, they were still going. Down the white flag, you know, it just
that's that's a tough transition, you know. It really is to be, so regimented and then do what you do now, because it's kind of like I always think of the Spectrum album, how they did that, you know, with Billy Cobham and Tommy Bolin and all those guys. Um, Very loose, you know. I talked to Billy about the way they did that album, and it was very loose, nothing was regimented.
you could hear that, and then you could hear Mahavishnu that was very loose. They probably like
Yep.
brought no rehearsal, brought the song to the studio, ran through it once or twice. And it's funny because I play in a Mahavishnu tribute band, and sometimes when we're trying to figure out what they meant to play in a certain song, we realize I don't even think they knew.
They didn't.
Weird. And then live, it's another way, and it's like, okay, I guess we'll do a third way, you know, whatever. That's the way they created it, you know. So
How
that's
about John McLaughlin as a guest artist on one of your albums?
yeah. If he'll play with little old me, you know.
I think he would.
Um, yeah,
I
I'd love.
hooked. I did hook John McLaughlin up with a producer, and he's Michael Franklin wanted him on John Anderson's next album, the Thousand Hands too, which is supposed to come out at the end of this year. And I got John McLaughlin to hook up with Michael Franklin. I think he's going to be on that album, so I can reach out to John for you.
Would you do that? That would be amazing. Holy moly! Uh, so yeah, that would be so cool. I mean, that's definitely on my list of bucket list artists I would like to work with, collaborate with. You know,
And Billy Cobham.
Nick Album, one of my favorite drummers. You know what I got to see by accident? A bunch of years ago, I was at the cutting room giving out posters. We had a show there, and I walked into a sound check with Billy Cobham and Didier Lockwood.
Oh wow.
Didier is not well known in the States. He
Hmm.
died 5 years ago. He was probably one of my favorite jazz and rock violinists, jazz fusion violinists of all
Yeah.
time. Mainly played in France and all over Europe. Um, and just he happened to be doing this concert with Billy Cobham, and came back that night, and it was one of the greatest musical experiences of my life. It was just so incredible, and I'm glad I got to see him while he was still around. You
Yeah.
know, and to see Billy was amazing.
Billy went through the same thing from coming from a regimented Miles Davis and Coltrane. He played with both of those guys, and he was very nervous playing with those guys. And then got loose on Spectrum and with Mahavishnu. You know, and imagine playing with Buddy Rich's band. You know how Buddy was.
I can go with Miles and Coltrane, but especially Miles. Miles was very loose. He would bring a sketch of a song to the session, and you would fill it. He let his musicians fill in the music, but he knew what he didn't want, and if he didn't like,
Hmm.
something, he'd let you know.
Yeah.
It was a lot of freedom. He was a scary. He could be scary and dictatorial, but he also gave people a lot of freedom.
Right.
So it wasn't like playing in something like Trans-Siberian Orchestra or
Right. Right.
Russian orchestra. You know,
Exactly. I'm like you. I love fusion. I love jazz. It's just a shame the genre isn't what it used to be. The jazz.
Anything could change. Things go in cycles, you know.
Right.
And I think the worst thing you could do is just chase trends just to be cool.
Yeah.
You know, music you love and do it because everything now is so split up that there's an audience for every kind of music. You just have to tap into it.
Exactly. Yeah. Joe, here's a question I've asked you 5 years ago. I still ask it to everybody, and I get some interesting answers. If you had a Field of Dreams wish, like the movie, to perform, collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
Um, I can only choose one person.
No, a whole band if you want.
Well, Frank Zappa is one of the first people that pops in my head. I
You
was
would mesh well with Zappa.
young when he died or to appreciate him, but I would have loved to know him and work with him. Miles Davis, um, Igor Stravinsky, Bach. Uh, those are a few people that come to mind.
Very cool.
I would need to think about it.
Yeah. Well, next time we talk, you got to put a whole band together.
Okay. Well, give me a heads up. I'll do it.
Okay. Very cool.
John Bonham on drums.
Bottom on drums. How about Bottom and Billy Cobham?
Album, two drums, Bach playing organ, Zappa on guitar.
Zappa on guitar. Yeah. You know, I love Zappa, and I love the way he thought. And he was an incredible guitar player, incredible composer. But I was very not happy with his lyrics. I mean, he got you got to admit he got silly with a lot of his lyrics, and he didn't have to do that. He would have been so much more powerful as a musician if he got a little bit more serious. I think,
Well, he was a humorist, and his lyrics reflected that. He was never. That's one thing that he lacked. My criticism of Zappa, he
Right?
never got sentimental or deep. He kind of was a little emotionally detached. I think that's the kind of person he was, and you hear that in his music. Um, and yeah, it's very technical and it's hilarious.
Yeah,
But there is an emotional detachment, absolutely. But
definitely.
just
Yeah,
man, whatever he was, however he lived his life, what he was dealing with personally.
right. I mean, songs like "Dancing Fool" and "Valley Girl." I mean, come on, he was so much better than that. He really
Yeah,
was.
it was entertainment. And my favorite Zappa album is Roxy and Elsewhere because it really sums up what he was all about. There was some great technical stuff. There's really funny lyrics, funny
Hmm.
songs. That's my favorite band I think he ever had. That era is my favorite era.
Right.
It's live and there's a lot of spontaneous stuff going on. Um, that's a good introduction to Zappa for people who had never heard his stuff.
Yeah.
Mm.
I liked Apostrophe because he got more well known as in the commercial world with Apostrophe, I think. You know?
He did. And sorry. Yeah, and that's another good one, and it's also from that era. And he
Yeah.
had Hetz on background vocals. Tina Turner was on there. People don't know he was using Ike's studio at the time, and I don't even know if they got paid. I think Ike just like pimped them out to Zappa.
And
Uh,
Jack Bruce was on that record too. I talked to
yes,
Jack about that. Yeah.
and then what is the overnight sensation? Also from that same time period.
Hmm.
Size fits all. That's like golden age. I mean, all his stuff is great. Joe's Garage is great. Uh, I can go on and on, but I like that early '70s stuff the best.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people copied Zappa, you know. I always mention George Clinton was uh, the funk uh, he was a kind of a Frank Zappa funk guy, George Clinton from Parliament, Funkadelics. He had that kind of you know, same kind of thing
Absolutely.
going on.
So, I just want to ask, like, how long is the interview?
We're done.
I mean, I could talk about this all day. I'm just Just being
Do you have anything else to add? Did we cover just about everything here?
I mean, yeah, I guess I could just do a quick plug about
Go
the
ahead.
show. So our live double CD, DVD, Blu-ray is officially out this Friday, May
Hmm.
19th. You could pre-order it now and get $5 off on melodicrevolutionrecords.com. And it'll be available on our website as of Friday, which is stratosband.com. That's STRATOS band.com. My website is joedviolin.com. And we are having our big CD release party May 31st at the Iridium in New York. And you could visit my website and get tickets.
I also want to mention Plugging In, a guide to gear and new techniques for the 21st century violinist. That's your book.
I wrote a book in 2012. I need to actually update it. I'm going to do a second edition.
Are you going to do a second edition? Yeah.
I'm going to get around to it because my opinions about some things have changed. Like just certain uh, gear things that I wrote at the time, and
Right.
I've evolved. But it's a good book. It was kind of a culmination of some extended violin techniques and gear related things that I had accumulated over the years.
Hmm.
But yeah, Plugging In is my book. You could find it on my website and on my Bandcamp as well.
And basically, are you a violinist who is curious about going electric but have no idea where to begin? Then the book is for you.
That's right. Yeah, it's basically a half of it is beginning improvisation,
Hmm.
blues, jazz, and some like chopping rhythmic technique, and the other half talks about what kind of electric violins you should get, what kind of pickups, amps, what the different pedals do. It's just a basic introduction for someone maybe from a classical or traditional fiddle background that is curious about this stuff but might feel intimidated by it.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm
So
glad when you guys put that out, all that knowledge out there to the beginners. It's important, you know, it really is.
I go around and I meet a lot of string players, and I get the same questions. I kind of observe
Hmm.
what people want to know they can't seem to access, and what can I share from my experiences that might help people. And
Exactly.
that's what
Yeah. Awesome, man. I want to say very special thanks to the great Ann Layton of Layton Media for arranging this interview with Joe. Joe's everywhere. I mean, he mentioned his website, and also the Stratospheerius website. He's also on Facebook, Bandcamp, Patreon as well, Spotify, Twitter, Linktree. So they can find you everywhere.
I'm hard to escape from.
And the box set is incredible. I love the videos, of course. Great show. I'm looking forward to more music, more new music from uh, Joe Denizon and Stratospheerius, and of course all the new projects he's got going on. And hope to see the Jeff Beck tribute album, Blow by Blow, very soon. No pressure, Joe.
Yeah,
I'll contact John McLaughlin, by the way.
that would be amazing.
I'll
Thank,
surprise you.
thanks so much for playing my stuff and for having me on your show. It was a great conversation, and this is stuff I could talk about. We could go on a road trip and
Oh, yeah,
talk.
definitely. Me too. Definitely. I hope you come to Florida one day.
I come to Florida a lot.
Good.
A bunch of times. I was there in March for in Orlando for a string teachers conference,
Oh, okay.
and I will be there soon for other things, which I can't talk about right
All
now.
right. Well, let me know. I'll meet you somewhere for lunch or coffee or something.
Let's do it.
All right, man. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Ray. Have a great day.
All right, man. You too. Take care. Bye.